Hello and welcome.
All right, welcome to the Church of Mark, the Mark podcast show. Today we have Arthur Renwick on the show. Welcome, Arthur.
Welcome. Happy to be here.
It's been, just like all the guests that have been on the show, it's been a while since we've seen you. And that's just not because of the pandemic. That's because you had gone back home.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, it was an interesting transition. The timing actually worked out beautifully. Like I was living here as a musician full time, and then got an opportunity. Every summer during the month of August, I would go home and do a month-long show at a pub around the corner from my mom's place.
Right.
And I was there doing that, and then while I was there, the owner of the pub said, "Hey, we got some things coming up. Would you be interested in sticking around for 6 months, and I'll pay you every week, and you can do a series of gigs, and you know, if you got the time." And the timing had worked out perfect because I'd just moved out of an apartment and everything was in storage, and I really had nothing to come back to. And I thought, well, sure, awesome, let's do it. And I had recorded a new album, and I was gonna tour it back to Toronto, and then find a new place.
What was the name of that record?
The Cowboy Crashing.
Oh, that's right. Cowboy Crashing. I recall.
Yeah,
right.
It was a project I started with somebody, and they bailed out, and I continued it and finished it in the studio with Alec Fraser Jr. just down the street from you.
Oh, great.
Yeah, and the album sounds great, and I was get it all packaged and then tour it. And then my mom had a series of strokes right at that point. And I realized that she needed full-time care.
Right.
She was hospitalized for a while and had to hang out with her and make sure she was okay and visit her every day at the hospital. And
this was back in Kitamaat? So
in northern BC.
Right.
And so some transition time happened there. I basically gave up all my plans, and I talked to the guy that owns the pub, and I said, "Look, this has happened. Can I stick around a little bit longer?" And he said, "Sure. By all means." He said, Did you want to give
a shout out to the pub as some free advertising?
Yeah, it's called Wee Geordie's Pub.
Oh, okay.
It's in northern BC.
Great.
People call it Wee G's or just Geordie's.
Just Geordie's, okay.
Or some people call it The Office.
Oh, okay.
But there's a lot of it, like it created this sort of hub of musicians coming out. Like I'd have an open mic on Thursdays.
Okay.
So it started creating a community of musicians to come out and share their songs, and it created jamming situations.
Right.
And realized there's actually a lot of talent in that little town, and it became my favorite night of the week.
Okay.
Hanging out there on Thursday nights, and then Friday and Saturday I would do a regular gig. And it was a blast, and my mom started recovering. You know, we started realizing she was recovering when her Haisla sarcastic humor started coming back.
Okay, right.
You know, she's okay when...
That's right.
She can give you a zinger. So, so I ended up staying, and that created another transition where while she was recovering, an election came up on our band council. And to give you an idea of where Kitamaat is, it's like, you look at the latitude, it's about a 18-hour drive north of Vancouver.
Okay, so it's quite
north. So if you look at it on the latitude, it's actually on par with Moosonee.
Okay, we'll try to find a map, and we'll put that into the graphics somehow to demonstrate that. Okay.
So when you're down here in Toronto, people think, oh yeah, Thunder Bay or even Sudbury, that's far north.
Yeah, no, it's not.
But when you look at it on the latitude, Thunder Bay is actually south of Vancouver.
Oh, really?
South of Vancouver.
Okay, but they don't get the nice warm ocean air.
No, they get the cold air coming off of Hudson's Bay and James Bay.
Right, yes.
That Arctic air just races over the water and freezes everybody.
It freezes. I know. We lived there for many years in Thunder Bay, so yes. And actually, we're driving up there next week. Well, nice. I'm driving. She's going to fly. Right. I'm driving to take some photos, and I haven't done the drive in 20 years.
It's beautiful.
But,
so. It's a beautiful drive.
So it's that far north?
It's that far north. So we get a lot of light during the summertime. Just on June 21st, the sun probably went down at about 11.
11, okay. It's like that in Thunder Bay,
just sort of got a little bit dark, and then a couple hours later, it started getting light again. You could see the twilight coming in.
Right. So you don't sleep much there.
Well, people block off their windows, but I actually don't mind the light. I've got a huge patio door right beside my bed, and light comes streaming in, and it. I find it. I need the light.
Right.
It. As a musician and a person that lives the life of the hours of a vampire.
Right.
Especially if you're doing the bar circuit.
That's right.
You do get into that. You spend most of your time in the dark.
Yes, you don't see much of the sun.
Yeah, so I welcome the sunlight. It really does help to bring my spirits up.
Great.
Yeah.
So since, I guess, moving back to Kitamaat, that was how long ago now? That was pre-pandemic, correct?
2019.
Right.
Was it 18? 2018.
Was it? Okay, right. That's right. So it's been a while.
I went home for August and then came here for a month in September, maybe?
That's right. I seem to recall something like that.
And then went back to start up in October. And then from October to March, I was doing the gigs.
Right.
March hit, and then she had the strokes.
Okay. Right.
So then I started staying there full time in 2018, 19.
And do you miss anything from living in Toronto? The access to, these different open mics you go to each night, or the food, or
the food.
Okay, the food. Okay.
The food, variety of things to do. A lot of my friends.
Right.
Like you and I didn't really hang out that much, but we saw each other all the time.
We used to see each other like all the time on Roncesvalles, yes.
It's like the proximity of bumping into people.
I would try to go do a quick errand, and I'd end up talking to you for like a half hour on the street.
Or longer.
You
just wouldn't shut up. I kept telling you should do a podcast or something. You keep asking really interesting questions.
So what's the food that you miss the most that you can't get in Kitamaat?
Thai.
Thai, okay. Really? There's no Thai places?
No Thai. There's a few South Asian restaurants, some Asian. No Thai.
No Thai, okay.
I love Thai food.
Well,
Jamaican.
That's a business
rotis.
opportunity.
Well, I know.
There you go.
Because you can't even find a hot dog stand.
Really?
You have to drive to Terrace to go to a hot dog stand, and it's only on Saturdays.
Oh, is it? Well...
Yeah, you got to do a road trip on a Saturday to get a hot dog.
And how far would that road trip be?
45 minutes.
The hot dog road trip.
Yeah.
Hey, there's an album right there.
Well,
hot dog road trip. We could do like a duo.
Well, that's when I go on my road trip with my nephews.
Okay.
My nephews, Willie and Donovan.
Right.
Yeah.
And do you get, I guess, a lot of chance to get out in the outdoors there? Do you go fishing, hiking? Do you do all that outdoorsy stuff, or?
When I wasn't working the current job that I have, I did.
Okay.
I did a lot of that, but this time around, they go out during the weekdays, and I usually have meetings, so I can't leave to do it.
Okay.
So usually, so I'm not as much, but you can, like the main point of going out is to harvest seafood for your family.
Right. Okay.
So people still go out, and you don't buy the fish; you trade it for money.
Oh, I see. Okay. Really interesting. Yeah. So, is that how you're spending your time? Like, how are you spending your days in Kitamaat now? Are you
working in an office?
Working in an office. Okay.
In a boardroom.
Oh.
During the pandemic, it was a lot of the meetings were through Microsoft Teams or Zoom.
I see. Okay.
But yeah, I got elected onto council.
Oh, great!
While I was there, somebody threw my name in the hat. So I was nominated, and then I thought, oh, well, why not, Well,
that's excellent.
It came about in a really funny way. They were holding a meeting in the band office with some of the councillors. A filmmaker went up into Kitamaat to propose to the community that they shoot a film up there. And it's by an author from our community. Her name's Eden Robinson.
Eden, right.
Yeah. So and the director's name is Loretta Todd. She came up to direct Monkey Beach.
Right.
And I would happen to be in town, and I was visiting Eden. She invited me over for a coffee, and her sister Carla had set up a meeting at the band council office.
Okay.
And Eden invited me to go along, and I said, "Oh, Loretta, I've known her since 1990. We've known each other for years.
Right.
I'd like to see her again." So I went in, and they're introducing each other around the table, and my cousins were on council, and they're saying, "Hi, my name is so-and-so, and I'm on council." And when it came to me, I said, "My name is Arthur Renwick, and I'm going to run for council." I said that as a joke, but everybody applauded.
Oh, okay.
And then after that, the idea stuck.
Okay.
So somebody nominated me, and then I got elected. And then the first meeting we had, they nominated me to deputy chief.
Oh, wow.
So I'm actually deputy chief counselor of our community.
My goodness. DC Renwick.
Yeah.
See, they make a better show title or album.
My office mate calls me deputy dog.
Oh, there you go. So what are some of the things you're working on in your community?
Man, there's a lot. There's a lot going on. Like more than I have ever realized. Like one of the things, like I thought that I would be able to do the music at the same time as well as do council work, and it's like a monthly meeting, like any other council would be. So
is there
once
food
a month
at that meeting?
Depends. Okay. There used to be, not anymore.
Oh man,
no.
Cutbacks, eh?
Yeah. Well, that's it.
All right. So once a month, you have a meeting?
Yeah. Well, it's more than that now.
Okay.
Yeah. There's because I'm also executive chair. I'm chair of this executive committee, so I've got 2 meetings a month plus a third with SRC, which is shareholders committee. Right. Shareholders and resource, I think is what, I don't know. I'm not on that one, but I sit on it anyhow.
All right.
And it's a lot of meetings. I was trying to describe it to somebody, like, what do you do? And I said, well, we filter information. We meet with people, filter information, and people are usually asking for things, and then we bring it to our council and we discuss it as a group, and then filter it, and then say yes or no, or give any recommendation we need to do, and then there's reports written. And
so what are some of the bigger projects that you're working on as a community? Or there's lots.
There's a lot.
Okay.
There's a lot. We'll focus on what I'm doing.
Sure.
As executive, the executive committee deals with community issues. So health, wellness, administrative stuff. There's like anything that's related to the functioning of the community and administration. That's my area.
Right. Okay.
Whereas SRC, they deal with the resources and own source revenue. Right. And all the businesses that are in our community. Okay. So they're the business financial end, and I'm community administration.
Okay. And is there quite a few businesses in your community?
Oh, yeah. Like you've probably seen in the news a couple of years ago, there was a big kerfuffle about the Whitset protesting a pipeline.
Yes, that's right.
The LNG. So it's a contentious issue. Mm-hmm. That pipeline that's coming from northern BC or Alberta, I'm not sure where they're sourcing it, lands in Kitamaat.
Okay.
In our home community. And the area, the territory that they're putting all of these plants on is Haisla territory. We own it. Mm-hmm. So they're having to come through us to do this. And our community, before I moved home, they'd already voted in favor of it. So our community is involved in LNG, liquid natural gas, with Canada. So they're building up this, many businesses, billions of dollars are going through there. And
you said
it's insane.
That has the support of the community, or is the community divided on that? Or
it was, I think they voted on it. It might have been, I don't even want to say what the, I wasn't there.
You weren't there, sure.
It was done before I got there. So I just stepped into it, and it was all just already happening. There's a lot of joint ventures, and there's like hundreds of millions of dollars passing through.
I see.
It's really insane. Like the stuff is, it's taken me a lot to sort of comprehend the kinds of things that our community is involved in. Right. And I'm sort of observing it all, and they've asked my opinion on it, and I basically told them, I said I can't be a spokesperson for it, due to my artistic background and my music background. It's sort of not lining up with my philosophical view. Right. So I can support it behind the doors, but vocally I can't be a poster boy for it. Right. I refuse.
Sure.
So they're understanding. They totally understand, because I'm in an elected position, right?
Of course.
And as an elected member, I have to represent the people, and this is what the people want, so I have to support it.
Of course.
And they have teams anyhow that are dealing with it. They don't need me.
Okay.
They've got all the people they need to sort of be pushing it forward and working on it, and it's not my background, so of course I'm not going to get involved with it. So, at the same time, you look at it, and I can understand the protests that was going on. There was I think 11 or 12 chiefs, I think, in that area, and there were 2 that were against it, and it's those 2 that created the most noise that
of course,
created the focus.
Right.
And they had every right to protest it.
Yeah, no, for sure.
I think they've come to an agreement since then.
Have they? Okay.
Yeah, so we probably may not see it in the news anymore.
Okay.
But that, I don't know, who knows?
Yeah, and how large is the community?
The community itself is 500, I think.
Okay.
The res.
Right.
Another 500 in the town site.
Okay.
There's 2 Kitamaats.
Okay.
One's the res, one's the aluminum town.
The aluminum, okay.
Alcan built it many years ago.
Right.
That's another story. When you drive into town, you're greeted by a snowflake that's made out of aluminum.
Really?
And the snowflake is a reference to the name Kitamaat.
Okay.
Which means people of the snow.
Oh, does it?
Interesting. Which is not our language. It was, I think Captain Cook came through there on a ship.
Oh, I see.
With Simshan Scout or whatever. And
right. Okay.
When they came to our community, there was a lot of snow, and he just pointed and said, people of the snow, which means Kitamaat.
Kitamaat, okay.
So we call ourselves, that community is actually Simotsa, which translates to Snag Beach.
Okay, Snag Beach. All right, that sounds like a movie I watched once.
Snags. It's referring to logs.
Oh, I see. Of course, yes. But like the beachcombers.
Yeah.
Right. In that reference, I see. Right.
Simotsa, but as well, our nation is called Haisla Nation.
Right. And
it's been fascinating being home. With one thing that's been quite amazing, like with the own source revenue that's coming in and the opportunities that are showing up for our community, is like there's hardly any unemployment.
Okay.
Everybody's employed. Everybody's got a job. Everybody is, our community is like offering courses on how to start up your own business.
Okay, so it's a thriving community.
Very much so. Like everybody's like able to get a home, raise a family, buy a vehicle.
That's something that's very hard to do now in various parts of Canada.
Yeah, like at one time, like if before they were relying upon the local industry, which was an aluminum smelter.
Right.
There's pulp and paper there as well.
Okay.
They destroyed the environment and then left. So that sort of went belly up. But they destroyed a river, a seafood source that we had. They killed off the salmon run as well as the Ooligan run. So there was also a Methanex plant that used to be there. So there's always been industry in this port.
All right.
It's like nothing new for these new industries.
Any reason why industry sets up there? Access to resources, I'll assume.
Access to electricity as well as transport.
Okay, right. Okay.
Ocean access.
I see. Okay.
It's at the end of a long channel.
I see.
So transporting from inland to get it to the ocean, they want the shortest route.
I see.
To the ocean.
Okay.
So because our community is at the end of a long channel, it saves them driving time to get it further out into the ocean to places like Prince Rupert or whatever.
Right.
And it's a port city. It's already set up, so we can transport things to Asia.
To Asia, okay. And
so
that's
one thing,
right. It's all headed overseas.
Yeah.
Okay.
I didn't expect to be talking this much about that, but what the plan is to offset coal burning in Asia. That's why they're shipping liquid natural gas.
Oh, okay. Great.
And the buyers that they're selling to are people that use coal.
Okay.
So
which we want to get rid of anyways. I mean, coal is bad.
Yeah. It's the lesser of three evils.
Okay.
It's coal and oil. Make the most
greenhouse gases. Right.
So there's all that going on, and I involved with it when they asked me to, and the rest of it I spend like myself. I'm sitting on the board at the local museum there and spending time with them, and
so you're like engaged in the community. You'll be
building partnerships with them, and
so you'll be chief next. We can expect.
No.
Okay.
People are asking me, "Are you going to run for chief?" And I say no, and they say why, and I said, "Well, when you're chief, whether you do good or not, you're always a target." And people spin the good stuff into bad stuff, and you're constantly being targeted. You're walking around with arrows in your back constantly. And besides, there was a song written about it called "I Shot the Sheriff, but I Didn't Shoot the Deputy."
Yes. That's good.
So yeah, I like being deputy.
So that's a good segue. Speaking of music, getting back onto the music track, rather than your political career, it sounds like you're doing a lot of great work in your community, which is awesome. So are you working on new songs, new material, new record, or what's happening?
I do have a record that's been that's in the can. And I have to get it designed.
Sherry said that too in the can the other day. A lot of people say that, right? Okay.
It's in the can. You do everything in the can. You scroll Facebook in the can.
Well, I don't have a cell phone, so I don't, but...
You kick the can, The can it's a common reference, I guess. But yeah, it's in the can.
Right. Okay, great. And when is that going to be released?
I don't know.
Okay.
It's got to be designed. It's kind of funny, you record something and then you let it sit for too long and then you sort of lose the passion for it. And I think that's kind of what happened.
Right.
If anybody's out there that's really good designer and you got some ideas for a project called Cowboy Crashing, let me know. I'm thinking of retitling the album.
Okay.
Because it's shifted. It's like there was a person that I was working on it with.
Right.
And it made sense when I was working with them on it. And then when they bailed, it changed everything, and now that it's just me, it feels weird to be calling it that. Because she was the cowboy element.
Okay.
And now she's gone, and now it's just me, and it's kind of weird that
right.
I live in a fishing village.
Yeah.
And I got an album called Cowboy. It doesn't make sense.
Okay.
But ask me where does this name come from?
Cowboy where does it? I was just wondering that. I'm sure there's an explanation.
Yeah.
Which you'll give us right now, right after these messages. No, we don't have commercials.
Well, Cowboy Crash, like when you ask people, hey, do you want to hear a hurtin' country song? People generally say, yeah, hurtin' country song. Sure. Well, what is a hurtin' country song about?
Oh, your spouse left you, your something to do with your truck broke down, your dog got, killed or something.
It's about a cowboy crashing.
Oh, okay, like literally crashing.
Yeah,
and not
it's a metaphor.
Crashing like psychologically or...
Yeah.
Or it's both of those things.
It's all of those.
Okay.
Nosediving into the bar, into booze.
Okay.
Crashing, relationship crashing.
Right.
It could be a variety of things.
Okay.
Falling in love.
Well,
Cowboy crashing. I fell.
Yeah. Well, I mean, just because you live in a fishing village doesn't mean you can't use the title. Like I just recorded a space record and I don't live in space.
Yeah.
Well, at least not all the time.
It's true. I've seen you floating down the street.
Yeah.
I saw Laura chasing you and pulling at your tether and bringing you back down to earth.
Laura's cracking up here off camera. You can't really see it. So sorry, yes, Cowboy Crashing. So it's literally about cowboy crashing, some sort of crisis, all those things that cowboys do.
Yes. Yeah.
But the songs on the album, it's still the same subject matter, like...
Yeah,
because if it is, just keep the name.
It's the stuff that I've done. The one song that her and I co-wrote.
Do you want to say who the co-writer is, or do you want to keep that secret?
No, she's not involved in the project. Okay. She's pulled out, so I'd rather just not mention it. But
sure.
We co-wrote the song together, and it's called Cowboy Crashing. It was the first song that we wrote together.
Right. I believe I heard that the title a while back. That's right.
Yeah, we made T-shirts. It looks kind of cool and stuff. Right. And it was fun while it lasted, and then it dissipated, and then it was just myself again doing it solo. And I guess, I do have some attachment to it because my dad grew up as a settler in northern Alberta.
Right.
And grew up on a farm. I remember visiting when we were kids, and there was an outhouse, a barn, big fields. They had horse and cows.
Right.
So he's a settler, like he is a bit of a cowboy. We'd go to this Calgary Stampede every summer.
Okay.
And check that out. So I can identify with it. And when we were driving there, it was in a brown station wagon.
Wood panel?
A brown Plymouth. No, it was just brown.
All right.
And the back window would be put down, and my brother and I were small enough that we had the back area set up like
no seat belts or anything like that.
Playpen in the back, and just our toys.
Right. That's right. Yeah.
My dad would have the windows down, and he had an 8-track player, and he'd be chain smoking, Export A cigarettes, and drinking whiskey out of a thermos, and plugging in 8 tracks of Hank Williams.
The old days, that's right.
There's a tear in my beer, and I'm crying for you, dear. You were always on my mind. You like all that stuff rattling through your head. you know, just all those songs, and driving to the farm and throwing things out the back window at the cars behind us when we could, you know, whether it was bubble gum or pennies.
I see. Okay.
Like we were that young, we were sort of playing around.
I understand.
But it's a vivid memory for us, you know, driving the tractor on the homestead.
Right.
That was my dad's experience, and he would share it with us, and then we go back to the res, you know, go back to the town, and we'd spend the summers on the res, and it was a beachfront ocean community fishing village.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah, so we'd spend our times doing that, hanging out on the beach, playing tag on the logs, but that's also where I got my musical start. We had my cousin Abadou, his nickname is Ivan Woods Jr. Him and Sammy Woods had a band, and they had a drum set and bass guitar and an amp set up. My brother and I, must have been, I don't know, 11, 12, would go there and play around with it, and they saw that we could keep a beat.
Okay.
And we would take turns on both.
What kind of songs did you guys do?
You know, that first riff I learned was Smoke on the Water. I think the second one I learned was God of Thunder.
Oh, by Kiss?
Yeah.
All right, that's right, yeah.
And then third riff I learned was Black Dog.
Okay.
By Led Zeppelin.
Yeah, great.
So I was really into riffs. So we'd be jamming, and I guess Sammy and Abadou looked at each other, and they saw that we could play, and they said, we should just give it to them. And they said, go ahead. And they gave it to us. So we took it home, set it up in the house. We jammed our first time, and our dad said, get that out of here. Find some other place to put it. You can't do that here.
Yeah.
So we moved it to my buddy's house in his basement, and and then we just started jamming from there.
Okay. How old were you then again?
12.
12. Okay.
Yeah.
And you've been playing since? You've never...
I started when I was 10.
Okay.
Got into band stuff when I was 12.
Okay. And then you kind of got, you were into visual art for a long time as well. You were known as a visual artist as well.
Oh, yeah, always.
In the early days. I guess you still are, of course. No one forgets that.
It was a form of escapism for me.
Sure.
Like I have memories of myself being 5 years old and hiding behind a chair and looking at something in a book and then copying it.
Oh, okay.
Like I was constantly drawing. And I took my first art class in grade 10. Right. And my teacher recognized that I had talent. She told me I could draw better than her.
Oh, okay.
And by grade 11, I was getting a lot of support. And that's basically what got me through school. If I didn't have that area of interest for me to focus on, I probably would have dropped out of school.
Oh, really? Okay. So it's something to find something that you like in school and kind of...
I was a terrible
use
student.
that as your I guess, your safety line or...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that just because I was drawing all the time, and I applied to art school and I got in.
You went to Emily Carr College, is that
I started off at Langara College for 2 years.
Right.
Did pottery.
Oh, okay.
Painting, drawing. And I won a drawing award my first 2 years there, and the drawing instructor told me that I'd be really good at architecture.
Oh.
And he recommended that I go to an architectural school in Pasadena. And he set it all up, and he said, you got this if you want it.
Oh, really?
And I thought about it, and I spent 8 hours on the drawing of my friend's punk rock leather jacket. He's a punk rocker. He played for Curious George and other bands.
Okay.
And I drew it like if you could reach into it and pick the jacket up off the paper. It was about this big. It looked super realistic, and at the end of drawing it, I just thought, why don't I just take a fucking picture?
Okay, right. Okay.
So I said no to architecture, and I moved over to Emily Carr and studied photography.
Photography, right.
Yeah, so I did my undergrad in photography at Emily Carr.
Right, okay. And you're still doing photography or music's now
well,
more your thing?
It's a long story.
Okay, well, we got lots of time.
So from there, way back in the 1900s, we, I've finished there, and then for 1 year, I took time off and just played in a band. I had big hair, big beard.
I think I saw some of those photos online, actually. Yeah, I'll try to find one to post during the podcast show.
Yeah, I was playing in 3 different bands, playing bass, and then I was really into it. And then I met a girl, and followed her to Montreal.
Oh, okay.
Abandoned everything, $1,000 in my pocket and a duffel bag, and got a ride to Montreal. And while I was there, there were a lot of my friends from Emily Carr were there.
Okay.
And they encouraged me to take art classes and apply to grad school.
Oh, and that's where you went to Concordia.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
We've researched everybody here, so
they thought I'd make a good teacher.
I believe in 1993 you did that.
Way back. That's right, 1993.
Okay, so sorry, continue.
I moved to Montreal in 1990, though.
Right.
Yeah.
The girl.
Yeah.
Right.
There was that. There was a lot going on. The Oka crisis was happening. They call it the Oka crisis. I moved there after it all blew up, and it was still going on. They were going to court cases, and became friends to a few of the people that were involved. Mm. One of them was Joe David. I got really close with him. We did some art shows together and spent Christmas with him at an old farmhouse there. I spent a lot of time with him. That's another story. Bradley LaRocque, if you're out there, he's in Saskatoon now.
Okay.
Yeah, he was involved as well. It was a really hot political center.
Right.
There's a lot of division within there, versus Francophones versus Anglophones.
Right.
People were leaving because in Montreal they passed this law where all your signs had to be in French.
I remember that. That's
right. So it became known as Arson City in North America.
Arson City, okay, right.
Yeah, there were businesses were going up in flames.
I remember that. That's
things
right.
were all boarded up, and there were bar fights over politics.
They've had a lot of, I guess, what's the word I'm looking for? Some sort of unrest in Montreal. Even in the last decade, there's been the sort of mafia wars and businesses getting torched and bombed and things going, and then even corruption going all the way up, I think, into even the police force and stuff.
Recently?
In the last decade, not in the last couple of years, I don't think, but we'll find some. We'll research that and find out when that happened. Maybe I'll post that on the site later. But anyways, So you stayed in how long then from Montreal?
3 years.
3 years, okay.
Yeah, I did my grad studies, graduated, and then I moved to Toronto. One thing that they could look up as well is Alanisa Bomsawin's documentary.
Yes. Okay.
Ganasatake.
Yes, saw that years ago when I think it was at Imaginative.
270 years of resistance.
Yes, yeah.
It's much longer since then, but...
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, I was there during all of that.
Okay.
And then moved to Toronto, and then my life changed again. I became a curator at the power plant here.
That's right.
Yeah.
Down at Harbourfront Centre.
Yeah, I worked on an exhibition there. It was just like this night and day experience of, I don't even want to call them jobs, of life experience, really. Working as a curator at a gallery like that was a huge step up in... it wasn't an artist-run center. It was revered as I don't know, an ivory tower of sorts.
Right.
They did collaborative exhibitions with the AGO. We did some touring shows together, and I put together an exhibition of Faye Heavyshield's artwork. Did an exhibition called "Into the Garden of Angels."
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I wrote an essay for it. This is in 1994. You can find it online.
Okay.
A Heavy Shield, Into the Garden of Angels. And it's an essay I wrote on her work, and it's about her experience of going through residential school and fusing that with her. She's Siksika, Blackfoot, and she talks about both cultures coming together.
Okay.
She viewed going through a residential school, like a Catholic residential school, as a part of her experience that she can't deny, and she would fuse those through objects that she would create.
Okay.
Yeah, it's beautiful work. Her work was really amazing. And so, she wrote an essay describing her work and talking about residential schools. Right.
And that seems to be in the mainstream news now with all the bodies that they're finding. And do you think now that... mainstream Canada is finally going to learn about the true history of Canada, and all the sort of atrocities that have happened in the past?
Well, yeah. I mean, it is happening. And I mean, we've got not only from that discovery, but as well somebody like Gord Downey creating the Windjack Foundation.
Right.
The Gord Downey Windjack Foundation. Like they actually invited me this past year to participate in a Indigenous History Month.
Okay.
They saw some of my work online, and they invited me to submit a video to show as part of one of their streaming events.
Okay.
Yeah, so that was kind of cool. And like, if Gord Downey's doing it, you know, it's sort of, he raised a lot of eyebrows towards it, so people got a sense of it. Mm-hmm. But I think they viewed it as, oh, that happened back then.
Right.
But now that there's bodies that we got to live with.
That's right.
Like, what do you do with them?
Well, right.
And it's this shock. And meanwhile, like, you know, Native people have always known. It's something we've always known. It's like, you know, we're thinking, yeah, it's that serious. Mm-hmm. Like it has affected us that much. You know, when you talk about disenfranchisement and, you know, just the upheaval of, you know, the culture for ourselves as nations across this country, it's had a devastating impact. And people aren't really aware of it. And, you know, if out of sight, out of mind, all those reserves are over there.
Right.
They've effectively sort of kept themselves separate for it so that they could flourish and we would not.
Right.
And it was a government tactic of assimilation. They expected that we would leave the reserves and come back in. Like way back when they first made the first reserves, we had to have passports to leave the reserve.
Right.
You couldn't even cut wood. You'd get arrested and put in jail if you were cutting wood outside of your area.
That's right. Never mind the banning of certain ceremonies and other practices and dances, right?
Banning the potlatch, jailing people for it. And, you know, there's been some retribution over the years. You know, there's been some communities that have been, I hate to say fighting for it,
right?
But it has been a battle getting the courts to understand the importance of culture and gaining some of it back. So there's been some repatriation that's happened on the West Coast with both Cape Mudge and Alert Bay.
Right.
The Umista Cultural Center, where they have living museums.
Right.
They've brought the artifacts home from the museums, and they let people access them for ceremony and then put them back behind glass. Some of them they keep covered if they're spiritual ceremonies.
Right.
So there's not so much a resurgence, but a rekindling.
Okay. Right. So I think with some of the other guests, we talked about how there is this sort of new renaissance or resurgence of Indigenous culture, arts, and entertainment into mainstream society. And that seems to be growing larger and larger each day. And do you see that, I guess, within your community back at Kitamaat, or... Because it's such a small community, it's not...
Yeah, I would say so. Like for myself, like I've always felt like I should be doing something political, but I'm doing...
Well, you are. You're on the council, aren't you?
Now I am. Yeah. But that's, you know, doing my music, I'd be singing drinking songs in bars, you know.
Right.
Entertaining people, and, you know, I'd throw in a serious song in here, but my music wasn't really political.
Sure.
But now there's this young duo that have come out... called Snotty Nose Res Kids.
Yes, great, fantastic. That's right.
Yeah, so they're from our res. Darren Metz and Quinton Nice. They created this duo, and they Darren went to music school and taught himself how to produce, and so he's producing all of their tracks now. All of their stuff is like totally Indigenous.
Great.
Infused with Indigenous power.
And they're still like living in the community? Is that where they're based? Are they
based in Vancouver now?
Oh, Vancouver, right. Eventually, you know, all artists go to the big city, it seems, at some point in their career?
Yeah, it's sort of, they have more access to things down there.
Sure.
Immediate, you know, that's part of the reason I liked living in Toronto.
Right.
You had access to a lot of things that you don't have access when you're isolated.
That's right.
But they do come home quite often.
Oh, great.
They're both basketball players, and basketball is really big in the Northwest.
Okay.
So they come home every February for the All-Native tournament in Prince Rupert.
Okay, great.
So yeah, they're really quite active with the community, and they're a lot of all their work, their music is all about Indigenous identity, Indigenous rights, and just empowerment to Indigenous people.
That's great, because there's a lot more artists out there getting known, especially even people I've never even heard of, and I've heard their music. I'm like, wow, this is fantastic.
Yeah, really talented.
Because it seems like that's really blown up, I would say, maybe in the last decade. Because prior to that, I remember myself and other bands, like there weren't that many Indigenous artists, doing sort of bigger festival shows, getting onto sort of mainstream radio or even television or other opportunities. Mm-hmm. And it looks like that's sort of changing. Do you have any advice for, emerging up and coming musicians, Indigenous musicians that want to, make a difference in the world, or just simply, write some good songs?
Well, the music industry is so different now. It's completely changed from when we started in it.
Yeah, that's right. We don't have record companies ripping us off anymore.
Yeah, a lot of it's like do it yourself, and if you can't do it yourself, you find somebody that can help you do it.
Right.
And that's the advice I would give. If you can't figure it out for yourself, find somebody that can help you figure it out.
Right.
If you got this idea, like never lose sight of your vision and if you've got this dream in your head of what you want to do. Like if you're young and you see yourself being on stage, performing these ideas that you have, that you really want to get your voice out there, keep envisioning that and just keep making it happen.
Right.
You could start locally, just by starting to sing, write stuff down constantly, record yourself, always, with these machines, these computers in our hands, you can do so much with it. And get used to the idea of, like if you're wanting to perform, get used to being looked at. So put a camera in front of yourself, and if it makes you feel uncomfortable, keep doing it until it doesn't bother you. And just get your voice out there. Keep telling your story and make it personal, and keep working out. And eventually, once you get finished telling all your stories, more stories will come. But as well, you can start constructing new ideas and start describing other things.
Well, that's great advice about having a camera, because a lot of musicians that I see, they're starting out, you can tell that they might feel a little bit uneasy being on stage, being the center of attention.
Awkward,
that's right. So what about advice to keep motivated? Because sometimes people will have these great ideas, and even like you said, it's hard to sometimes stay motivated in the project because of, A, B, and C.
Share the music with your friends that support you. And if you really want to challenge yourself, share it with somebody you know that won't like it.
Okay, great.
You got to hear both sides.
Well, I always share it with my wife first, and then she's not a big fan of my music, but actually in the audience, she's the only one usually booing. So. Well, that's great. So we're coming to the end of the show, and we'll have you play a live track. Have you picked out the song you're going to play?
No.
Is it going to be something new, old, or you haven't figured it out?
Well, I mean, it's funny you ask, because I'm here in Toronto. I came here to deal with a storage unit that I have here. They're asking too much for it, so I got to move it. And I have to retrieve some things from the unit, as well as downsize it and deal with some artwork. But while I'm here, I'm also going to be recording a song with Ken Whiteley.
Okay,
he's the one that recorded my first album. Mm-hmm. We're going to record a track, and I'm bringing my daughter in. We're going to record it together.
Right.
Yeah, and it's actually a political song.
Oh.
That you're familiar with.
Okay.
Because we cut a demo here.
That's right.
Yeah.
I remember that we did a couple. We did Shim Sham Girl and...
Apology Not Accepted.
That's right, correct.
Yeah.
I think I even have it on this computer here, actually.
It's possible,
somewhere on the hard drive.
Yeah, so we're going to do that with in a full studio, and I've got some ideas with him, and we're going to bring in a choral group. And
oh, wow.
His son's going to play some cello and stand-up bass and put some vibe on it, and he's going to have a Leslie organ.
Oh,
he's got all that stuff there.
Right.
I think the only one person we're going to bring from outside is going to be a drummer.
Okay.
Bucky Berger, I think.
Oh, great.
It was between him and Gary
played
Craig.
with Raffi, I believe. Bucky.
Was it?
Yeah. He was Raffi's drummer.
It was going to be him
or
or
the live shows.
Gary Craig, and I think we chose Bucky because of availability. So yeah, I've got some ideas with it. We're going to meet at the end of the week, and discuss it some more, and then record the bed track, and then build it up from there. I've got some ideas on who I might want to invite in.
Okay.
As well, but it's sort of in the it's in the work in progress phase.
And is that going to be released in the near future, or for a future album, or?
I think it's going to be a one-off.
Okay.
Yeah, and I like to do a video on it.
Great.
With it, accompanying video. But it's like just everything that's happening politically, and like it's a song that I wrote quite a while ago. Mm-hmm. And I think when I brought it to you, I'd already written it. I've already had it for like 5 or 10 years.
Yeah, I remember the song. And actually, it's a very strong song. I remember the demo, and yeah, it's great.
Performed it once at the Convocation Hall here in Toronto with a big chorus of people singing with me.
Right.
Yeah, it went over really well. Got the whole audience singing. So it's kind of like an anthem. Yeah.
Right.
Apology not accepted.
Great.
So yeah, I'll be working on that. And I was... thinking about some other things I wanted to do, but I think I'm just going to narrow it down to that for now. And
better focus on one thing rather than kind of 10 different things.
10,
that's what I find, anyways. As I get older at my age, I can't multitask as much.
Yeah. So that about rounds it out, I guess. Is there anything else?
Maybe anything you want to add? Any exhibition shows, band council meetings, stuff coming, like any announcements?
We just had a weekend workshop last week with new counselors, and we got 3 counselors on our council that are named or nicknamed Joe.
Okay.
So you say Joe and 3 heads will turn. So
I see.
The new one, I'm calling him AJ.
Okay.
His real name is Alex Grant Jr., but for some reason they call him Joe.
I see.
AJ.
Okay.
AJ, you better be doing some work back home. But yeah, I think we've got in some new blood into council, and I think we're all working really well together, it seems so far. So it's good. We're getting a lot of potential, a lot of good stuff that's coming down the chute. Like we're building a new youth center. We've got a new health center that's built.
Right.
We're building a new apartment complex on the res.
Oh, wow.
So we can give affordable housing to 25, maybe more families. So it's like really, there's a lot of new housing going up, and we're developing new subdivisions, and going to be building a sports complex in the future. So there's a lot of growth happening. It's kind of exciting times to be there right now. And, shout out to family. Mom, I love you. I'll be safe.
And she can watch this later on her television in glorious HD.
If it wasn't for her, when I first started playing guitar on my own, like a lot of the stuff I was playing was really heavy rock on bass. Mm-hmm. But then when I picked up an acoustic guitar, the stuff that I was writing was folk oriented or country oriented, and I couldn't figure it out. I had a bit of a...
Is that just because of the timbre of the instrument, or the tones it produces, or
listening to? My dad was into country music, and my mom was into the classics. Like
I see. Okay.
Chris Christopherson, she loved Elvis, like all the old stuff.
Right.
So that was constantly playing over and over again. Chris Christopherson constantly playing. My dad playing Johnny Cash.
Right.
Hank Williams. Like I absorbed it. Mm-hmm. So a lot of the stuff is influenced by that, but as well, I still like heavy metal. Like punk rock, so I like the heavy stuff as well. So stuff I do is kind of eclectic that way.
It is. So you're going to do a heavy metal / folk /
punk rock,
punk rock jazz, cool jazz song.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we're going to switch over to the live music set now. All right, and now we have Arthur Renwick performing a song.
This is a song. The song happens to be a song I wrote for a cousin of mine who we did a paddle trip from Kitamaat down to Bella Bella back in 1993 to the Mariposa Festival, and we spent a lot of time walking on beaches and talking about life, everything. Anyhow, when he passed on by his own choice, and it was really hard for me, and I think I was driving from Ottawa to Toronto when I heard the news and when I got back to Toronto, I wrote this song for my brother, Doc Stewart, Tommy. This is for him and her family. Okay. This is called Bumper Crop of Hurtin' Songs. I've never been so lonely, sleeping through most my days, thinking, man, if only I could wash these blues away. Helplessly watching precious time just slip away, wishing this whole goddamn world would all just wash away. It don't seem to matter what people say or do anymore. Getting lost in beer and whiskey at the bar behind closed doors. It don't seem to matter what people say or do anymore. Getting lost in beer and whiskey at the bar behind closed doors. Seem to matter what people say or do anymore. I'm getting lost in beer and whiskey at the bar behind closed doors. Everyone I've tried to love has either died or moved on. All I ever seem to harvest are bumper crops of hurtin' songs. All I ever seem to harvest are bumper crops of hurtin' songs. Thank you.
Thank you, Arthur Renwick.
It was a pleasure.
Yeah, thanks for being on the show, and we will have you next time you're in Toronto, I guess.
Yeah.
Or maybe we'll come out to see you.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Sounds good.